Welcome to the Sustainable Living Podcast. Tips, tools, and tactics for living a heart-centered life that honors Mother Earth and her inhabitants. The information shared on the Sustainable Living Podcast reflects the opinions of host Marianne West, Janice Fryatt, and their guests. Please use your own discretion and research before applying any information to your individual situation. Now, here are your hosts, Marianne and Janice.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I'm Janice Fryatt.
And I'm Marianne West.
And today we have a very fun show planned for you. We are going to talk about an article in which we self-sufficient homesteaders are described as moochers living off civil society and some other fun things like that in the last half of the podcast. But first, we're going to have a little update on what's going on with the homestead. So we are in the very beginning of August here, and a lot of stuff's happening in the garden. What's happening for you, Mariana?
Oh, it's hot. So for me, it's I'm coming more and more to the realizations that I really don't like to hand water. I just don't get around to it. It's never enough to really keep everything moist as I want to. I feel like I'm wasting my time and energy and water. So I have to bite that bullet. And if I can't overcome my reluctance of just spending the time to install the automatic watering myself, to hire somebody. And that said, I had hired somebody before and it didn't work out. And I have made quite a few attempts. I think I have learned a lot from what to use and not to use. So I'm down to wanting to use Netafim exclusively. And we are not making advertisement, but if anybody from Netafim hears this and wants to sponsor us.
Okay, so what is that, and how is it spelled?
Okay, it's Netafim. It's a company, and the company is located in Israel, and they have a lot of different products. What I'm looking at is tripline, and I want to find tripline which has holes, I guess you would say, or whatever you call it, outlets every 6 inches. Most of what I could find readily has 12 inches, which is great for fruit trees. But I want to do a system of creating a grid and have that go onto my veggies and kind of almost like creating a grid to just hydrate everything, because I'm planting a lot kind of the food forest idea, which means I have a tree and then I have herbs underneath a tree and I have some vines growing. And, you know, a lot of people which install irrigation, you have the tree and hopefully you have mulch underneath the tree. Sometimes people have nothing. And then you just put the trip tape or whatever you're using on what is called the trip line of the tree. So if you're imagining the tree where the leaves kind of are above ground, that's where water would drip down onto the ground. And the theory is that most of the feeder roots are right there and a little bit beyond. So you don't really want to water right at the trunk of the tree, but further out, right? So I have a lot of green mulch growing underneath my trees. So I have to figure out how to exactly do it. And really for me, it's like my days are so full that I always have to make the choice. Am I going to work on the podcast? Am I working in the garden? Am I working on our Bancroft project, which I will talk about later? Do things with the kids, you know, or God forbid, just do nothing.
Oh, God, heaven forbid. I think you need to schedule that into your day, my friend.
I need to, because my husband went on a mini vacation last weekend. And of course, my mind immediately went to, oh, I can do this. And then on Sunday, I was just tired. I didn't want to do anything, you know, didn't want to talk to my plants or to the animals or to people.
Yeah.
It's like, just leave me alone,
Yep.
So I kind of did that of allowing myself not to make a plan, not to have that big list.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually did things, but very slowly.
Yeah. Believe me, I know what you're talking about. I've been going through that a lot lately. In fact, my latest post on Instagram was a picture of me from my hammock position. I'm beginning to really see that kind of time as not useless, as extremely valuable and extremely healing for me. So I'm trying to do that more and more, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's really necessary. So I wanted to just throw some in here we are filming this or, recording it so that we can put it on YouTube. But for those of you which are just listening to the podcast, you might hear some background noises. And Janice is sitting outside on her patio. So I just heard some wind coming through the microphone.
Yeah, and you might hear my dogs bark or get up and run after a squirrel, which, by the way, I found 2 dead ones on my property yesterday.
Oh.
And at first I was thinking, maybe the dogs are finally getting into squirrel mode. I'm not sure. One of them looked like, it had been opened up. The other one did not. So I'm just hoping nobody's doing any poisoning around here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I find sometimes that rodents, which are obviously dropped from the sky, so some bird of prey got it and then couldn't keep holding on to it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, so usually I had a gift of a rat Sunday morning, but I know it was my dog who brought it to me. So.
I saw that picture on Instagram, which, by the way, those are the kinds of fun things you can see on Instagram when you follow us, you guys. So you should do it.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I was just
right now.
Go ahead. Well, okay. So just a little background on that, everyone. I went for a hike with my friend this morning. It's really, I call it a walk, but it's kind of a hike. And I always forget going around where I live, going around Irwin Lake is long. I lose track of time. And so I got here right on time when Marianne and I had planned to be recording this, but I was all sweaty and gross, and she was kind enough to say, hey, you could take a half hour and get ready if you want. And so, of course, I'm starving too. I haven't eaten, so I have like a little power bar here that I was just eating. So if you hear any eating noises, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I'm doing my best to keep that out. But anyway, I wanted to share a little bit about what's been going on with me besides the dead squirrels. My husband has been, he's going on his yearly trip, so he hasn't been around for a little bit. And so I find I get a lot done when he's not here. I am just motivated, and all the things that I'm not doing when he's here, I'm doing. And so I got really motivated yesterday and the day before, and I wanted to make my garden, my vegetable garden, look pretty. Because I have 5 raised beds, and all in between the raised beds, it's just weeds growing. So I had saved up a whole bunch of cardboard from my friend when she moved. I took all her old cardboard boxes, and basically I sheet mulched all in the garden, all around the planters, and it looks so pretty now, and no weeds, and I'm just really excited about that. And plus all my vegetables are just bursting now. They're just really taking off, so my garden looks just gorgeous. So look forward to pictures of that, or even a video possibly on Instagram showing what's growing in my garden, how much nicer it looks now.
It's the magic of mulch. Yes. I mean, that's really a very good way to make everything look better instantly. And cardboard is so much better to use to suppress weeds than the weed cloth. Mm-hmm. Which basically kills the soil underneath. I don't think a lot of people know that. Yeah, if you put that, I forgot what kind of material this exactly, but you can see it all the time when landscapers like put a new design in. They use that black cloth to put down, and then they put some mulch on top, and that stuff just really kills the soil underneath, which the cardboard is going to disintegrate, and eventually your weeds are going to grow happily again.
Yeah. But then I can get more cardboard and do it again.
Yeah, well, and the chances are less because usually weed seeds are very tiny and they need to be exposed to light and moisture and so forth. And if you keep a good layer of mulch on, it will suppress weeds for a long time. Yeah. Not Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is hard to suppress, but not everybody deals with that. So
yeah. Oh, good tips, and thank you for that information about that. Whatever that shape. What is it called? Weed cloth.
It's called weed barrier. Usually, okay. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I'm sure it has some brand names people go by.
I'm also intrigued by the watering system that you want to get and what you were saying about the trees as well, about the drip line on the trees.
Yeah. I wanted to get back to Netafim. And the reason why I like the company is that their stuff it's guaranteed for 12 years, which is kind of unheard of in that whole industry of drip systems and so forth. A lot of the agricultural type of thing, you have one season, maybe two, and then you have to replace it. So that's a lot of plastic going into the landfill.
Yeah.
And then also they recycle their stuff. So when you pull it out of the ground, you can return it to Netafim. They recycle it, and whatever can be used again, they will put back into the product, which also means that the product is a high percentage of recycled material. Oh. And since I wasn't planning on talking about them, I don't have the numbers, how much of it is, if it's 30% or 50% or whatever recycled material, but it is a lot. So that's the reasons I like it. And obviously maybe not obviously, but most of you know by now that I'm in Southern California and San Diego, where we do have sun exposure pretty much year round. Mm-hmm. So a product developed in Israel, which is, very much a high sun climate as well, is a good thing to use in this kind of climate. I'm assuming it's just as durable in cold climates, but I can't speak to that, so I don't know.
Okay, well, thanks. That's really interesting information, and I want to keep an eye out for that. And I want to see what you do if you get that stuff, if you install that watering system, and potentially, see what I can do up here. And I also wanted to see, maybe next time you come up, I want you to help me with my trees. I want you to help me. Yeah, let's talk about, I want to mulch. My trees need to have a better situation. I don't think they're exactly, I think the whole thing could be improved. So maybe when you come up next week, and we can talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah. And speaking of podcasts, so Janice and I are going to meet up in person in 2 weeks at the podcast movement.
Yay!
So if you are a listener, you might not really care so much about podcast movement. It is for podcasters. But we are both on a panel together with, you pronounce his name, Ed Begley.
Ed Begley Jr. Yeah. Woohoo! I mean, everybody knows. And if you're an environmentalist person, you're somewhat familiar with him, I'm sure. He has a reality, or he did have a reality TV show, and apparently he must have a podcast if he's on this panel with us.
Yeah, he has a podcast together with his wife.
Yeah.
And then Tim Warden, I think, is, I should have that in front of me. I'm sorry. But we will put it in the show notes, our distinct fellow panelists. One of them is actually a German, and he has a German podcast.
Heaven forbid! German! Another German!
So he has a German and an English podcast.
Those Germans are everywhere.
I know. What is that?
Especially in environmental stuff. They're always in environmental stuff. I did notice that.
Well, because Germany is like way ahead when you really think about it. Said there's more solar energy produced in Germany than in Southern California or in California, period. Wow. It's like really Germany has winters and lots of gray days. So I think it's just people are very conscientious of how they show up in the world. So that's why you see a lot of Germans talking about environmental stuff or just, things like that. Because we were, was it the 70s? I think it was the 70s when there was a big oil crisis.
Yep.
And and I remember that people then got really awake and there was a lot of recycling going on. And even now, your trash allowance is very small in comparison what I see going into the landfill here. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole nother story. So yay to the Germans. Here we go.
Very cool.
And then Jadise is our fearless leader, and she has a very interesting podcast as well. So she is from, she was born in Haiti.
Wait a minute. You said Janice.
Jadise.
How do you
are on video, but you're not from Haiti.
Oh, how do you spell it?
Judithe, but she pronounces it different.
Okay.
I think her first language is French.
Okay.
I don't know what her first language is, and again, I should have the name right here, and I don't have my phone close by. I have subscribed to her podcast a long time ago. It's very interesting. She talks to, people really from all over the world, but the episodes I found really interesting is when she talked to African women in Africa, which are change makers, and it's just very inspiring. So, and our panel is podcasting for social change. That's not exactly the name, but that's kind of what it's all about. So if you're a podcaster, it's still 2 weeks away. So make the trip to Anaheim and come to the conference. It just is so full of information and amazing people are there. People I have listened to for a long time. So I'm hoping to see them in person. But for you as our listeners, hopefully we learn a whole bunch of stuff and are going to be better after that.
Very cool. Well, anything else going on? I mean,
yeah, I had a little chicken incident, which was kind of freaking me out a little bit. So on that Sunday, when I really didn't want to do very much, of course I went and I fed the chickens and I fed the dogs. So I did that much. And I went back towards evening to feed the chickens. And for some reason, I walked around the compound a bit and I saw a tiny one. Well, I have like also teenage chickens. I saw her over at the fence. And when I walked closer, she was stuck in the fence. So I have like I don't know how big the fence, maybe 2x3. It's kind of a wire fence. So that's how big the holes are. And I'm assuming, so here is what's going on in the compound. The teenagers, a lot of them turned out to be boys.
Oh, no.
And little rooster boys kind of like to hump a lot. I have to say that. And she probably was trying to get away from them. And so she got stuck in the fence. So her little wings were like outside and she couldn't come back, kind of when they built those traps where you can go in, but you can't go back out. That's what she did for herself. So I went and got the wire cutters and calmed her down. And basically what I did, I put my hand over her eyes so she couldn't see anything. So that way chickens get a lot calmer if they can't see. And then, made sure I protected her body wherever I was cutting. So I was cutting all the fence out and then picked her up and brought her to water right away because I have no idea how long she was there. I don't think she was there in the morning, but I didn't look particularly. I just went to their feeding area, which is further away from there. And usually I go back several times during the day to bring him greens or to bring him some. And that Sunday I was just I need to not do anything kind of
Mm-hmm.
a day. But she's okay. First, I thought maybe she hurt her feet because she was stumbling a bit. But then, if you are in a weird in a weird position, then it takes a little while to stretch everything out and stuff.
Yeah,
but now I have to figure out how to separate those little boys that we have peace back there.
Yeah, that's always something you're dealing with. I've noticed, but you're always getting new ones in, and then dealing with the males and having to you're finding babies in different places.
I know. So we built this great chicken compound to eliminate those things that we don't know where babies are located and things like that. But we have 5 which are escapees. So I will have to figure it out. Either we raise the fence a little bit higher, and I will try to clip their wings. So if you don't know what chicken stuff is, you don't hurt them. It's just kind of like a haircut on their flight feathers, so they can't go up that much. But I also see them climbing up the fence. Some of them are just very, very good. And there is a plus when you have extra roosters, then they make good soup. But it is a lot of work. And that kind of, well, we can talk about it later when we talk about those mooching homesteaders. Moochers. Moochers.
I know. Well, before let me tell you if there's anything I have going on that's besides what I've been doing. I'm really excited about my elderberries. They're going crazy. I'm excited that hopefully I'll actually be able to harvest some and make some elderberry syrup. And my honeyberries and my gooseberries are coming along quite well. I've been really big on the compost tea this year. And just really trying to get the microorganisms into my soil. I'm hoping next year, I really want to set up a really good worm bin system where I can really harvest the worm castings and then create worm tea out of the worm castings. So right now I'm buying stuff, and to be more self-sufficient, I'd much rather have a system where I'm creating my own stuff to make the tea. But that's next year.
So next time I come up, we can talk about that. I have set up so many people with worm systems. So
okay.
Really easy.
Well, I did a worm bin a couple years, last year or a couple years ago possibly, and it was nice and it was great. I got some great castings, but I couldn't keep it going, and it was never really thriving. So yeah, that's another thing you can do when you come up here is help me with my worm system. Okay, we got a whole list for you, Marianne.
Sure, if I want to
I know, but put you to work here.
It turns into a big list.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it then. I'm just excited. August is always fun because you're really seeing the fruits of your labor, and I love to look out at my garden. It makes me so happy. I have 7 big Napa cabbages, and I'm going to have to start harvesting them. And I'm going to make some kimchi. Get really stocked up on my kimchi, and so that's what we have to look forward to in the next few weeks. Now, yeah. So now let's get to this article. It caught my attention. I do look at Zero Hedge on a regular basis, and the title was, and this was posted on August the 3rd. The title was, Forbes says self-reliant homesteaders are quote unquote delusional and quote unquote mooching off civil society. And it is written by a Daisy Luther via the Organic Prepper blog, which sounds like a blog we all should be reading. It looks pretty interesting to me. this person, Daisy, she found this article in Forbes and she does a really good job of laying out what this person says about homesteaders, and then she kind of counters the argument from a homesteader's position. She does a very good job, and I highly recommend that everybody check this out. It really gives you something to think about. But I thought maybe it might be fun to just kind of go through some of the points that she illuminates in this article, that this Forbes person says. And basically she says that this person gets most of the information that he has from those reality television shows, crazy preppers with tons of guns, ready for doomsday, that kind of thing. And maybe this person's viewpoint from just getting it from this one source is kind of skewed. But to give you an idea, here's something that they say in this Forbes article. There's a central delusion in these shows that is never far from my mind when I'm watching them. Off-the-grid people are not self-reliant, but instead are mooching off of the civil society, government, and safety net the rest of us contribute to. The people in these shows often describe a very romantic vision of the lives they have chosen, the ethos underlying it. They describe themselves as self-reliant and criticize the rest of society as being dependent and lacking in this self-reliance. It is morally superior, the story goes, to provide for yourself, take care of your own needs, and often be prepared to survive if society collapses. So basically, he's saying that, we think we're better than everybody else because we're self-reliant, but we're not really self-reliant because we're mooching off of society. And he goes on to talk about things like, well, if you get sick and you're taking advantage of, the system by going to a doctor, or maybe you're even getting some of the governmental benefits that people get, such as Medicare or something like that. You're a moocher if you're doing that. Well, they don't. This person who wrote this article makes a good point of saying that this guy never even considers that, hey, we all work too, and we all contribute to those safety net programs.
Well, I think the problem I'm seeing with the article is that a whole group of people is thrown under one measure. And I think most of us agree you cannot take reality shows for reality. They are not reality. They are shows. And people in there, they're chosen to give a shock value. They don't want to show somebody who looks just like your neighbor, and then it's not interesting. It doesn't make for good television, whatever that is. Yep. And then out of those people's lives, they take just the aspects which might give that. I want to say shock value, but there might be a better word. Just this, like, oh, look at that, look at that. So to take that serious and not look at it as this is entertainment, I think right there is a huge flaw. You cannot put a huge sector of people, and again, as homesteaders, there are so many levels of it, so many different people who consider themselves homesteaders. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm sure there are some which think they're superior, as there are people in every walk of life who think they're better or superior to others. And I'm sure there are, but that doesn't mean all homesteaders are. That's one. Yeah. And then my first thought was when we just talked about healthcare last time and how it is a matter of privilege. So I would think there are a lot of people which are not homesteaders, which might not have insurance and might have to take advantage of a government provided service, which there really isn't. I mean, healthcare is available to you in a dire emergency. Otherwise, you pay for it, no matter where you're at. So it's not like we're having huge government programs to support that. It just seems like a very skewed article with not a lot of real arguments behind it.
Yeah, no, I agree. You can't base a whole article on reality television, okay?
But you cannot apply it to everybody who might consider themselves a homesteader or something.
But here we have some very conflicting terms, okay? This idea of what is reality, I have learned, I was an actor for a while. I did a lot of local theater, and I actually did do a little bit of auditioning down in LA and Hollywood, and I actually auditioned for a reality show once, which I came to find out wasn't really reality in any way, shape, or form. So that's the thing I think people ought to consider is what is reality? Whenever you look at any reality show, don't think that it's reality. It's probably less real than your average sitcom. They audition people to be in these reality shows to play parts that are not real. Mm-hmm. So that means it's not necessarily reality. You can't judge a whole group of real people based on a show that is very, very likely not to be real, or at least at the very minimum, it's going to be exaggerated to an extreme degree, as you said, Mariana, for entertainment purposes, right?
Yeah, and edit it. I'm sure if you film our whole day, there is one instance in a day where we do some weird,
right.
And if you just take one piece of every day and then make a show out of it, we turn out to be really weird people, you know? So, yeah. Or vice versa, there is something in a day which is just all good and wonderful. And, It reminds me so much on discussions we have had in even the podcasting groups, how articles come out and make statements. And a lot of times in the podcasting world, it's about, there are only men out there which are successful. And it's like, hello, there are women podcasters. There are a lot of them. Mm-hmm. But if you don't write about them and just assume they're not there and then say it's so, it's like me saying the sky is green. And because I say it, it is so. it doesn't make it true, right? So,
Right. And I think we could do a whole podcast really, and I think it might even be worth it to talk about what is reality,
I don't know if we can figure that out.
Well, but right, exactly. You and I understand that we're not going to go, hey, this is reality, everybody. Look over here. We're going to show you what it is. But the very fact that so many people are trying to find that, and looking for different places, because never, I think, in my lifetime has reality been so in doubt as it is now, or our versions or our perceptions of reality been so in doubt, because there's so many people saying what's real is the complete opposite of what these other people are saying is what's real. And the information that we get, the ways that we form our opinions about what is real are even extremely suspect these days. So this is a real big time for people to start really looking and thinking about, how do I get my information and how do I determine what's real? How do I use discernment to do this? Because there's all these trusted sources I used to rely on have been found to be not trustworthy anymore, And that's, I think, where people like us in the self-sufficiency movement, we kind of have a leg up on that. We are, in a sense, we've been thinking that we don't want to rely too much on other people for whatever. And many of us have realized that we can't rely on the traditional sources for our information about what is real as well. So, yeah.
So that article brings some else to mind, so too. And I have no idea if that is the intention of the writer. I can't speak, for that. But a lot of times, if some becomes actually creating an impact, which might be against the interest of maybe people who want to make a lot of money, it becomes something you want to make ridiculous and unreal. So the homesteading movement has definitely grown. I mean, I remember a time when the idea of being self-sufficient out of your garden has been around for a while, and it actually was highly promoted after the Depression or in really the Second World War, because people needed to eat, and that was a very good way to provide enough nutrients for everybody. Actually, there was a movement that everybody should have like 3 chickens or a chicken per person in the household in their backyard. And after things got better, so to speak, which again, what is real in being better, but let's say more affluent, there was this whole push about, no, don't cook at home. Here, we are giving you these meals you can have ready-made. You don't have to work on it anymore. And really, our nutrition has gone down. It had so many consequences, right? And this is now maybe going a little bit into conspiracy theory, and I don't want it to sound that way at all, right? But said homesteading movement, taking things back into our own hands, can be detrimental to the economy as we know it. I'm not saying detrimental to us as people or to the country or to anything else, but if you're based on selling you more and more and more and more stuff, and now more and more people saying, no, I don't want to buy stuff anymore, or I'm very specific about what I want to buy, then you're not playing the game of needing more profit, needing more stuff. So sometimes when I read those articles, I'm going, what is the true motivation here? And the guy is an economist who wrote the original article. So he is schooled in the ideas that we have to produce more, always more. That's the only way we can act. If we do exactly the same like last year, we failed.
Right. So if you really want to contribute and help society, you should be out there shopping and buying more stuff. That's the idea. Many of these quote unquote economists have about, and it's understandable, but what we've come to realize is a good economy. We've talked about this many times. A thriving economy does not necessarily translate into a thriving humanity or a thriving Mother Earth.
I think we see that right now, that our economy is actually supposedly doing well, but a lot of people are working for less money than they did years ago, or maybe it's the same money. If you work for the same amount of money you did 30 years ago, you took a huge cut in income because everything else is more expensive. So, I mean, that's just another way to look at articles.
Well,
like
it's an important way. I would like to talk a little bit more about that because, again, we are being shown over and over again that we as a people, humanity, needs to take control and not just believe everything that is put in front of us. We do have to start looking at what's the motivation. Why did this person write this? Why does this person have this opinion? We can't just take things at face value because really, most of the time, the way things are set up right now, there is a very specific reason why people why a certain message is promoted over and over and over again. And if we don't become aware, then we are sheep, not just sheep, but robots. We're just cogs in the machine, and benefiting somebody else, not benefiting us, not benefiting humanity, definitely not benefiting Mother Earth. So there you have it. Again, not veering off into conspiracy theory too much, but honestly, I'm very skeptical when I see somebody call, someone use that term on people, because it plays very well into the hands of folks who don't want us asking questions, don't want us to continue on with the system as it is. That label of tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist is, like I said, that plays very well. It's a very good tool to shut people up. And, that's not what our podcast is about. It's not about being shut up. It's about talking and really looking at things and becoming more empowered as individuals, as humanity, and also on behalf of Mother Earth.
Yep, there you go. You said it.
Yeah.
Now we're done.
No. Well, I just think we could go off on a lot of tangents on this. Again, I truly believe we all have our own ways of getting information. Okay, for me, I began to really question the mainstream narrative years ago because of my son, who was just becoming a young man, and the things that I had taught him about the system that I had learned and learned very well to repeat. He was looking at and seeing things weren't really adding up so well the way that everybody says they should add up. And because of him, I started looking at other sources of information. I started looking at YouTube and a lot of places that are not mainstream, not the traditional CNN, MSNBC, all that stuff. And I started to realize and see over and over again that there is a particular story that they're all putting out the same story over and over again. And there are other versions of that story. And I would just highly recommend all of you to look, open your eyes and see the other versions of the traditional narrative that's been being put out. Then make your own mind up,
Absolutely. And I think, especially in the age of the internet, we're in a position where English is being used. This is for, us in the US and so forth, but English is used in so many countries. So you can read a newspaper in England, for one. But one of the papers, and people go, Al Jazeera, blah, blah, blah. It's a Arabic newspaper, and they have an English version. And you definitely can see the other side, because every story has at least two sides. Usually it has 10 sides, where kind of like history. If you look at history with the eyes of a woman, you see a different histories than when you see it through the eyes of a man. If you see it through the eyes of the winner, so to speak, it's a different history than the one of the one who didn't come out on top. So it's just, there is no one truth. And that's why I was saying earlier, when you want to figure out what is reality, that's
right. But
there is no, no absolute.
Right.
There are always all those different ways. And I think what both of us feel is important is to have a lot of different sources.
Yes, but I would also
coming from different opinions.
Yes, but I would also add that because we can get very confused. There's part of us that can go. We look at all these different approaches and opinions on the same topic, and it's very confusing. And how do you tell what's real and what makes sense? The thing that I would always recommend to anybody is you have to keep developing your inner compass. And that comes from looking within. That comes from time alone, time meditating, time in nature, constantly looking within. You can, for me, when I meditate, I hook into my higher self. If I'm in that space, I can ask questions. I have guides. I know it. I'm surrounded by beings that are not, material. And when I get a feeling, when I'm in that state, and I ask a question, I will get an answer, and the answer is always right. So it's individual for every person. Every person has their own way of doing this. But the key is, I believe, all of humanity, we need to start looking inward instead of giving our power to other people and always seeking outward for the answers, because the best answers are going to be within. So just had to throw that in.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a very important point. And it's the last podcast we published. I had been speaking to Candy Spender in Australia. And so one thing, well, she said a lot of things I really, spoke to me, or I reacted to in a way of thinking about it and so forth. But she was saying that when her son was small, she couldn't keep up her meditation routine as she could before and after. So she had the experience of being a regular meditator and not. And she said her difference was, when you meditate, you have a space which allows you to respond to something instead of just react. And I thought that was so profound to me. We see so many people being, ourselves included. I'm including myself. You can exclude yourself if you want to. But, just reacting to a situation right there and just having that space, being able to take that breath and allows that whatever it is, whatever button got pushed, to let it go a little bit and then be able to come from a different place to respond. So,
I totally relate to that. And to me, that's there's been so many valuable things about meditation, but that has allowed me to, in my view, move mountains. And by mountains, I mean my triggers. When someone triggers me and I would go into fight or flight or start arguing with someone, all of us over time, and I know it's because of meditation, I would be in that moment and start to be triggered, and then all of a sudden go, oh, I don't have to go there. All of a sudden I had that space where I could actually choose not to react and think of it in a different way that didn't trigger me, So that there's so many benefits, but yeah, you can transform your life in so many ways through that space that you get from meditation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, good tip.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Really good tip. Well, we are getting close to the end of our podcast. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about on that the homesteading moochers? I just think that's so hilarious. It cracks me up. How can a homesteader be a moocher? That whole idea is you're producing, not just consuming.
Well, whereas the person made a whole bunch of assumption about a homesteader. For one, said they don't have insurance. For two, said they're not paying taxes and other things. And that's just not true. I mean, You and I both have houses we pay property taxes on. And actually, you're going to link to the article because she had a very good response to it. So I think this is kind of what I would like to throw out there to all of you listeners. Come and visit our website. We actually have blogs which go along with each episode we publish. And we were just honored to be chosen to be in the top 75 sustainability blogs.
Woo-hoo!
So we have a little, So when you go to our website, there is a little medallion on there, and you can click on it, and it actually takes you to a place where you can subscribe to an email list, and then you get the newest blog of all of those 75 people into your inbox. At least that's how I understand how it works. I might be wrong. Speaking of emails, we have our own email list, which we ask for you to join the Sustainable Living Geeks tribe. That's what we call ourselves. So there is several opportunities on the website where you can join us, and then you get a welcoming series of emails, and you just might get a little video welcome.
An individual personalized video welcome.
Exactly.
So, yes.
So look for that, and it would come from sustainablelivingpodcast@gmail.com. We really couldn't justify to pay the $25 a month to keep it with our logo and all of those things. So it's just going to come from the Gmail address. But open it, look for it.
And one day we might have a sponsor who pays for that. So that may be in the offing in the future.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yes.
Things can happen. So I think that's my wish for you guys. Come on over to our website. And we also are working, or we have a search function now where you can search for our older episodes by number and by guest name. They're almost all updated, all the episodes, which we have. This is episode what, Shanice? 109, 108, something like that. So we have well over 100 episodes now. At this point, I'm pretty sure the search function is working. There might be a few glitches still, but we have been working a lot on making our website better. And this will work just beautifully very soon. So we are definitely working on that. And we have little tweetable clicks in our blog posts. So if you want to share share things, please go for it. We love it. We love it if you share what we do. And we love that you're listening. So I think that's our main thing. We're both deeply grateful to have you as listeners to our show.
Yeah, and contributors and guests and people to interact with on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And we love you guys. We really get a lot from your tips, and we share them with everybody. And hey, it's one big happy family here, and we're really grateful for that. So thank you. So that being said, you guys, we'll see you next week.
Yep. Okay. Take care.
Take care. Thank you so much for joining us on the Sustainable Living Podcast today. If you like what you heard, please consider going over to patreon.com and supporting us with a donation there. Take care.